Frank Parkinson, and I've made this little video to introduce the E+ system and the E+ house. E+ is short for Energy Plus, and the concept is of a house which will generate enough electricity for its own needs and a surplus as well that can be fed back to the grid and produce a profit for the householder. The E+ house is different from similar systems, partly because it aims to produce more electricity than it uses, partly because it is a system in that the component parts are integrated together, and partly because it goes back to basic science before looking at the engineering. A word or two about the new science that lies underneath the E+ concept. It's fairly complex and not fully worked out, but to give a general flavour of what's at issue, I just want to point out that traditionally the fuels that have been used in generating electricity, coal and oil particularly, are different entirely from the renewable fuels, which are essentially wind and solar power. This is a very interesting topic which I don't have time to go into here, but if you think about coal, which originally was vegetation which took its energy from the sun 92 million miles away, and when this vegetation was fossilized, the sun's energy was locked into the coal in the form of chemical bonds. Now we're talking in a new energy age to come about taking the energy directly from the sun. We are heading towards a revolution in the whole generation and distribution of energy, and I would only like to talk at the present time about the fact that we have completely ignored the vast amounts of energy that are available directly from the sun. The reason for this has been partly because oil and coal have been relatively cheap and easy to get at. But to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, a 1 bar electric fire consumes about a kilowatt of electricity, and a square metre of your garden will be taking about a little bit less than a kilowatt of energy from the sun on a good sunny summer's day. So from that little fact you can see that quite a moderate sized garden is soaking up enormous amounts of energy during the summer days. And one of the problems that the E+ house has got to tackle is not only how to take this energy and convert it into usable electricity, but how to store it for the times when the sun isn't shining. The UK government has lit the fuse under the revolution that I'm talking about by its feed-in tariff, which was introduced in April of this year. A kilowatt of electricity or kilowatt hour of electricity will cost you normally something in the region of about 12 or 13 pence. And the government is offering you the astounding sum of 41.3 pence per kilowatt hour for every unit that you feed back into the grid. That's a marvellous incentive, and I think it's going to be a bonanza that's going to persuade a lot of people to look seriously at the whole question of using renewable energy. When I talked about the E+ house as a system. The point about that is that whereas one could just bolt on different components that already exist, like heat pumps and wind turbines and things, the actual job of linking them together and of converting their input into electricity is quite a complex one. This diagram will give you some idea of what kind of a system it is. You won't be able to see the details, but you will be able to see that it is linked together. It's a bit difficult to project a revolution into the future. I believe that it is perfectly possible that in another 20 years our grandchildren will be asking us, why on earth didn't we use renewable energy all these years when we were polluting the atmosphere and paying massive amounts of money to burn up coal and oil. To give you some idea of what I'm calling the E+ revolution, you can look back and see something comparable in architecture over the last 100 years. 100 years ago, the great majority of houses in the UK did not have an inside toilet. Many of them shared an outside toilet. Central heating was virtually unknown except in grand houses. Now, today, one has running hot water, one has internal toilets, which we take completely for granted, one has double glazing. To try and sell a house today without most of these things would be very difficult indeed. And in a similar way, I think in 100 years, in fact in a lot less than 100 years, it would be taken for granted that a house will have various installations that will collect renewable energy and convert it into electricity. To give a little idea of the question that I've already raised about what is energy, most people would say that heat is energy. But I have here a little model of a Stirling engine which may very well make you scratch your head a bit and probe a little more deeply into the whole question of energy. The first part of the demonstration, the little model is running on a cup of hot water, and that seems to be plausible enough. But in the second little demonstration, it's running on a tub of ice cream. Now, how can the same engine run on heat and run on cold? That's all, and I hope this little video will set you thinking about the nature of energy and the nature of renewable energy and the Energy Plus house.